obviously, not being a part of the church anymore and, being in the LGBTQ community, not something that I expected BYU to acknowledge me, I guess, and not in a bad way, but just maybe was unsure, at that level, what was appropriate and for them. And obviously, it's not something that I expected to deal with, because I was like, oh, that was something that was in my past, and then this is me now. And the acceptance and claim and celebration I got from BYU was extremely positive. I met with one of the athletic directors, came and gave me a gift and just celebrated me and was so welcoming, and gave me a lot of respect for that community, and how far I think that we've come, and even since I've been in the church, of love and acceptance, and in that regard. And so obviously very, very surprised of that community and how much support and love that I got from them, and just very pleasantly surprised that that's the direction it went. But a great feeling, as you can imagine.
It is time for another episode of the Cultural Hall. And if you have ever read about or met someone where you're like, this person probably is good at literally everything that they ever attempt to do, well, then this episode is for you. She's shaking her head. Stephanie Rovetti, welcome into the Cultural Hall.
Hi. Yeah, definitely not true. But thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Now, that is bronze Olympic medalist Stephanie Rovetti. We'll get into that a little bit. You are part of the Rugby Sevens. I have no idea what that is, and I imagine where this sport is becoming increasingly more popular here in the United States, people will start to know what that is. But why is that the name of the team, like the Cardinals, or what? Tell me, what does that even mean?
Yeah, well, people are usually typical or familiar with the typical 15s, which is 15 versus 15, 80-minute matches. And we play a much faster and shorter game. So Rugby Sevens is named for the 7 players on the field. So 7 versus 7, 2 7-minute halves, a very quick game, a very physical game, a very fast game, very exciting game. But essentially like football without pads, and passing the ball backwards instead of forwards. Simply put.
So is the full 15s on 15s part of the Olympics then? I guess I don't know that either.
Yeah, no. So sevens is the only one that's an Olympic sport. The 15s has the World Cup, but the sevens rugby came into the Olympics in 2016, the first year. So fairly new.
Okay. Now, 2016, a fairly significant year for you in your history, but not as far as rugby goes. This is what I'm talking about, by the way, with the amazingly talented Stephanie. What was so significant about 2016 for you?
Well, 2014, I retired playing, or 2016, I guess, I stopped playing basketball. So collegiate basketball player, played for BYU, went to grad school at Fresno State, played there for a year. And then 2 years later, transitioned into rugby. So at age 26, in 2018, transitioned into rugby, and 6 years later, brought me to the Olympics. So also a little bit of a unique story, kind of, being around all these Olympians, have trained their sport their whole life. Rugby in the US is a little bit different, where not as developed sport. We have a lot of athletes who are what we call crossover athletes, that have come from soccer or softball or basketball, who have developed athletic sports, at a high level, transition to rugby, learn the sport of rugby, and can play at the national level.
Well, and if the name Rovetti sounds familiar, that 2014 team at BYU made it into the Sweet 16. So not just like, oh, hey, I sort of play basketball. You play at a very elite level. And also running is part of your past, too. You were like the Nevada State Runner of the Year, something.
Yeah, I did track in high school because I was fast. I absolutely hated it. I was nervous, throwing up for every race. So, but basketball was my true passion. I loved basketball, grew up with basketball, probably still is my number one sport that I will love forever. He was really lucky to, play at BYU under Jeff Judkins, a legendary coach and player in Utah. Had some really, really good teammates, Jen Hampson, Lexi Rydosh, and, Kim Beeston. Those players had a great experience at BYU playing basketball, and taught me a lot of things about how to be on a successful team, and how to compete and how to play at a high level. And so, yeah, growing up, I did all the sports, which
Hmm.
ultimately at 26, kind of a full circle moment. I'm learning these different skills so much later in my life where like, oh, I learned that in softball. Oh yeah, from soccer when I was 10, I kind of picked that up. So, you don't think you'll use it for the rest of your life, but luckily it came in handy once that hit.
I like the idea that the reason why you ran so fast is because it made you so sick that you were just like, let's get this over with. Can I get it done as soon as possible? If I run faster, it'll be done quicker. Let's go.
Mhm. Yeah, I put a ball in my hand, then I'll run. But other than that, just run and no thanks, not for me.
Uh, I have to ask though, because I know that there is some sort of like these crossover folks. I think of there are some like Australian rugby players who have crossed over and then played like for the University of Utah and stuff like that. I'm thinking of a couple kickers and some of those individuals that they go, yeah, okay, well, it's sort of the sport, it's sort of aggressive, and we can teach you the sport and then come over. Are you old or young or right in that like realm of age for someone to go, yeah, I want to be a part of Olympic team. Let's do this.
Well, I hate to say it out loud, but I am old. So, I'm one of I think the second or third oldest on our team right now, at age 32.
Uh-huh.
But when I started there, I'm a little bit old for starting. I was 26. But a lot of people start after college. And obviously, I think if you're playing basketball and you're a different athlete transitioning to basketball, it's such a high like skill-based sport where you got to be in the gym shooting since you were little.
Hmm.
That I don't know if that would be possible for rugby. It's a more fitness based. Those their skill and strategy and things like that that you have to learn. But easier to pick up at a later age and just use those skills. So I was a little bit later in my life, but typically, I mean, across our team, our Olympic team, I think, gosh, we have a couple sports that were played other than rugby in college.
Hmm.
And you play the opposition, Australia and New Zealand, and they are playing like similar to how we play soccer when we're little. They play rugby when they're little.
Hmm.
So a lot of the US, like we don't have that grassroots level. And so we get the best athletes at their sport. We have hockey, we have college soccer players, we have college track athletes that's just the reality of the sport. And like something that we wanted to carry forward as, our team and the impact we wanted to make is like at some point we will have that grassroots level and then, um, just be a great force in the rugby community and globally. So
For you, was it you get done with collegiate basketball and sports is so much of your identity, but you can't play college basketball forever? Or were you going down the list and you're like, well, I could be a breaker, but if I'm not very good at that, that might end up being on all the channels, of course, referencing the Australian break dancer that has been all over the place. Was it an intentional, hey, here's a thing that I can continue to do that led you towards rugby? Or was it some friends were like, hey, you're good at some of these things, try this?
yeah, good question. Well, as soon as I finished my rugby career, I went into coaching. So I coached at the University of San Diego basketball. So again, that like, wow, I've spent my whole life. I'm 23, 24 years old, way too young to be retiring at a sport. You're still physically active, physically in your peak shape. Mentally, you've, mastered all these skills and dedicated your whole life to that sport. And to, start over seems very daunting. And continuing the coaching route was something that, I wanted to do at the time. So I was just living in San Diego coaching. My sister, actually, she's a year older than me.
Mhm.
She attended BYU for a year, and she was just in her dorm, and her dorm mate was just like, "Hey, there's a rugby club at BYU. Like come to tryouts with me, like tonight." And she's like, "I don't even know what that is, but okay, I'll go." So that's like kind of, I think that moment was actually so funny because of the snowball effect that moment had.
Mhm.
Because my sister is like, all right, I'll try it. And my sister also very athletic. She went and joined the BYU rugby team, was very successful there, was on the U20 national team, found it post, there's a clubs that play a lot of post college aged. So something she could do active out after college. So she was in that community. I was down here coaching. I'm still like, got that, I've got that itch to be competitive and play, and I'm young. And she said, there's a great club down there. There's a great club that's really successful. One of my friends plays on. Go, you'd be really good at it. Basketball is a very transferable sport with the footwork and the reading space and all that. So I went and it was just the most welcoming environment. The San Diego Surfers, it's called the club team that I went on.
Of course it
And
is. Of course that's
yeah,
what they're called, right?
like I'll take that. That
Yeah,
sounds pretty
yes,
cool.
please.
Yeah. And, I was really fortunate. And they have a social side, which is such a lot of fun.
Mhm.
Go play socially, and then there's a competitive side, which actually is very good. The national team trains in here in San Diego, so there's a lot of players that kind of bounce back and forth, and so there's a lot of great players on that team, and the coach actually. For that one specific summer that I played that club was now my coach Emily Bidwell.
Mm.
So she just moved down there, kind of helping out build this club up, and so I was able to be seen by her and then brought off onto the national team. So kind of a snowball effect of just like the stars aligning and me just following like what I'm passionate about and what I kind of wanted in the moment. I had no aspirations of making the Olympics, of being on the national team. I just like really wanted to be in a community that was fun and competitive and things that I was familiar with that I had in the past that like kind of wanted to continue on. And it's just amazing what it kind of led me to.
I have to imagine, though, that even though you have completely dismissed it out of hand, that my original comment is true, that you have a natural ability towards these things. I can't imagine that you show up to a surfer's match or whatever. I think they're called matches, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I can't imagine that you show up and are horrible and they're like, yeah, come and do this. Like you had to have had something that someone went, hey, I see this. And your competitive nature of not wanting to be the worst person on the field probably just sort of ignited that.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it's just the perfect recipe of I was fast. I've always been fast naturally.
Hmm.
I got footwork. I can step people for the years and years and years of footwork drills that I've done in the basketball gym. I can catch the ball because I played basketball. And I hate losing. Like I want to win no matter what. And I think I just got in front of the right people and they're like I talked to my coach Bidwell now, and she's like, I remember the first time I saw you, and you were doing these drills, and I'm like, you just move like a little different, and I'm sure it's my basketball background and
Sure.
playing sports, and she's like, yeah, I can work with you, like I can work with this, and there were times where she, pull me aside from practice and be like, hey, I'm gonna like really teach you how to pass because your pass looks awful, but she spent a lot of time with me. There's a lot of veteran players that are now on the national team and are my teammates that kind of took me under their wing and like, hey, I'm really going to teach you how to do this, or like, which was such a interesting experience, because that they're kind of in turn becoming your competition to make the team and all that, but just the environment just made me stay, and was really lucky that a lot of people invested a lot of time into me and saw that potential that I had.
Is there a kind of a mixed attitude? Maybe I'm picking up something that you weren't intentionally saying, but like when you have like the World Cup of rugby, like is that a bigger deal than the Olympics? And I guess the synonymous thing that I would say is, 3-on-3 was in the Olympics this year and we had a team and I think some people go, "Oh, that's cute." They weren't able to be on air quotes a real team, but the World Cup. Now that's the thing. Is there that attitude or am I just reading something differently?
I think there's the Olympics is bigger than the World Cup or viewed that way. I think to some communities, just because the nature of the Olympics
Hmm.
and 15s has its own culture, and the World Cup is so respected in the rugby community. I think just globally accepting the Olympics kind of that's the big event, though there's so much history in the World Cups, and and it just means things to different people, and uh, there is a little bit of crossover between sevens and 15s where we'll have some players go play 15s and vice versa. And so it's a little bit interesting, not quite a 3-on-3 and, typical basketball kind of
Hmm.
feel, but there is a mutual respect between the two teams. Like our national 15s team and us, we have a great relationship, and we share certain players, and we're always cheering them on and us on. And so a little bit different, but I think just the history with the World Cup globally, also just within the rugby community, is a bit different.
Yeah. As a quick aside, as they look to bring baseball back to the Olympics, I wish that they would come up with a sevens version of baseball
Yeah.
so that I'm not watching 10 hours of baseball. I love it. I don't need 9 innings, like four. Give me a good odd number. Let's roll it out. Sorry, America's pastime. When you find out that you're going to be a part of the Olympic team, can you take me to what that was like and then going, and then maybe we'll take a quick break and pick it up actually at the Olympics in that experience.
Yeah, wow. Well, the lead up to the Olympics is probably one of the most stressful times in my whole life.
Hmm.
We train with a group of 23 girls. So full time, we go on tours. From that group of 23, only 12 get selected for each tour and also for the Olympics. And so, as you can imagine, it's a very highly competitive
Sure.
environment. And your best friends, you're competing for a spot for the Olympics. And we have that group of 23 is the best group of 23 athletes. It's the most competitive. We had 1 through 23 that could very well have been on this team playing in the
Hmm.
Olympics. And so, we have a lot of competition, which has made us so great, inter squad, but also it becomes very stressful. And so back in 2020 for the Tokyo Olympics, went through the same, I was on the national team, went through the same exact um, process of selections and selections for the Olympics and the alternates and all that. And I was not on that roster. So kind of experiencing that heartbreak and coming back and then playing, knowing this is my last Olympics, getting older, this was something that was obviously so important to me and something that I wanted to achieve and kind of out of my hands, up to the opinions of our coaching staff and the selection committee. And, going out there and just kind of like competing and doing your best and then kind of letting go of that was one of the hardest things. And, the selections come out in an email. So, which
Oh,
is painful.
geez. Refresh, refresh,
Yeah,
refresh, refresh, constant.
exactly. Yeah, you feel like you're like 16 waiting for a message.
Oh,
But our staff does a really good job of really, supporting those who don't get selected and making it as a safe and environment as you can. And you're competing for one of the most important spots of your life. So
sure.
we have had selections came out in June. So I think I just went up with my dog in a park somewhere and just sat by myself and waited for that message to come out. And then, you open the email and see your name on that list. And I think I just cried. I think it was just this, years of wanting something and finally achieving it and having people who believe in you and being able to like represent your communities and your team and your country. It was just like so overwhelming for me. And got to call my family and tell them, which was a great experience for me. And but after that selection, it's like, oh, okay, now you got to go do it.
Yeah.
You got to go play, a whole 2 months. You got to practice. You got to, you're worried about getting hurt. You're, worried about your performance. You're, the attention and the distractions. It was just unreal.
Mm.
So, like the build up to the selections was so big. And then you realize, oh, you got more to go.
Yeah.
It's going to be so much bigger.
Yeah, this is just the
So
beginning at that point. A
exactly.
question that I want to throw in here because I just don't know. Like in basketball, you have like the tall, lanky centers, and you have your shorter, typical guards and stuff like that. Are there those different like you want different physical attributes for different parts of rugby, or is it like your best rugby person is a fast 5'9", 200 pound or whatever the thing would be?
Yeah. So what I love about rugby, there's so many different body types. Like you
Okay.
look at if our team's lined up, you got a 5'10", 200 pound girl, and then you got a 120, 5'5" girl. And everyone can kind of play every position. There obviously are slight nuances of you want your fastest people on the wing, you want your three strongest, biggest people in the forward, so in the scrum.
Hmm.
But it's so fast and so interchangeable. It doesn't change much across, which is so cool because you in rugby you can celebrate all body types and shapes and sizes. And while I'm really quick and fast and small and shifty, that like my skill is celebrated, but then I got someone who's going to run through somebody and is powerful and big, and they're celebrated for what they're good at.
Hmm.
And in every sport that I've played, it's like there's a specific tall and for basketball tall and this and this and this. And so something that makes rugby so unique and so cool and so inclusive for people. So a bit different.
Yeah, I like that. And maybe we'll get into some of that inclusion in a bigger scope and why that might be so significant. Let's take a quick break. When we come back in the second block, I want to talk about you land in Paris and now you got to do this thing for real. You're with the team and all that, what the actual Olympics were like, opening ceremonies, the games, all of that stuff. Let's take a break and come back and do that in the second block of the Cultural Hall.
Imagine running a small business today. It's challenging. Imaging and internet presence is an absolute must. Even with that, you're still a small star in a bright cyber universe. Now, imagine you have someone who understands how to get your site designed for your talents and then easily searched by potential clients. Imagine Lennon Design. Whether it's strictly a website or a whole package of logo creation, advertising media, and promotional materials, Lennon Design is your partner in business. They'll test the boundaries of their imagination to create something unique for you. When you need creative, affordable design, let it be Lennon Design. Call 801-699-3022 or visit lennondesign.com.
Here in the second block of the Cultural Hall, remember, you can always email us, contact@theculturalhall.com. That is a great way. If you love this episode, you're like, yes, more like Stephanie, please. You can send that. If you're like, oh, I happen to know someone else that you should have a chat with, you can send us contact@theculturalhall.com. Best part is open all the time. You can send those in the middle of the night when you think about it, and you don't have to do it at a particular time. Love getting those, and then love being able to share those here on the show. So Stephanie, you land Paris. Boom. Here it is. Olympics 2024. Heartbroken for Tokyo. It's a redemption in some ways. It's a culmination of a life's work of physical, just going after it. Tell me what that experience was like.
Yeah, so we land in Paris. We for the first week we went to a place called Tours, France, 2 hours south of Paris. It was a little early to go into the village and just a little base camp. We went there with Ireland and had a few scrimmages, practiced, and it felt like a regular tour. So we were away from everybody. We had a little scrimmage where we had some people come and we did some autographs, which was cool. But just like really excited. We're all really focused, really connected. And then, a week goes by and we travel into Paris and completely different vibe. You go into Paris and there's Olympic signs everywhere. You see stadiums, you see, there's people and, you get into the Olympic Village. We do our processing, which, you go through and you get all your gear and, you walk in and there's Simone Biles getting her gear. And it's just like the excitement and the energy is just like up here. And you're like, oh, this is it. And from the moment we get there and that processing, it was just like nonstop, like mental stimulation of, you're meeting your idol athletes to like you're signing autographs and, you're practicing and you're nervous for playing and you got the rugby side, but you got the social side and, that you're in the Olympic Village and with all these athletes and, going to bed was so hard because you're just awake, like not tired, like just like ready to go, like so excited and so nervous. And the buildup was like torture, so being in the Olympic Village was just like such a cool experience. And, you're just going on a Tuesday to go eat lunch sandwich and you're seeing all these Olympians just walk past you is really, really special. And, but at the same time, like you also have a job to do. So, staying connected as a team was challenging where, that's that person's favorite athlete and this person's going to do this cool thing in the village. And, so big. And, our team connection and cohesion is like so important on the rugby pitch. And, so having time to bring it back to ourselves and, was challenging. And, the dining hall was challenging where it was busy and, all these distractions. So, one of the main things we had to do is just manage the distractions and, not necessarily bad distractions. They were just like good distractions. They were like, it's like shiny things over here and over here. And, just really staying a cohesive unit was probably our biggest challenge, aside from the rugby stuff. And, we've done a lot of work. We brought our sports psychologist with us. We bring him on tours and, just having him to kind of come back to and, recenter ourselves was a big in the lead up. But at some point you're just like, all right, I'm ready to play. Like, I just got to play to get these nerves out. I got to play to like, the buildup is so grand. And, I think it's funny. I was on Instagram, I think the day before I played or 2 days. And I just saw someone doing a CSI marathon. And I'm like, I'm really jealous of them right now because some peace and like no stress sounds so good to me right now. Obviously, so thankful to be there, but in the moment, that's how I really felt. Like,
was there any element for you and vulnerability part of this where you're like, what am I doing here? I think that would be, I mean, I don't think I'll ever be an Olympian. I guess I should say not ever. I don't think so. It's not an aspiration, but I think I would at one point just sort of look around and go, what am I doing here? That is that person. That is these people.
Yeah.
Or is that just a completely foreign mindset where you're like, no, I am here because.
No, I was like, uh, I definitely don't belong here. Like in my mind, an Olympian is so idolized in my head, and it was so beyond my reach and my physical capabilities, and it just was never a possibility in my mind. And
Hmm.
so being there, being like, oh, like I think of the opening ceremonies, and I was like wearing the same thing as LeBron James. I was like, that just doesn't seem right to me.
Yeah.
Like that's not right.
Yeah.
But then think like, like you've done that, and you are the best at your sport, and you earned to be here, and you worked so hard to be here. And getting rid of that idea of like this is what an Olympian is was actually really challenging for me. And obviously these huge names are it's just so incredible just to be surrounded by that, and appreciative of what they do for their sport. But yeah, definitely like I can't believe I'm here.
Yeah.
I was a backup point guard at BYU. I don't I it was definitely grounding, but also very like uh um special, I guess, moment.
Representational too, where in some ways, representing the church, and we'll get into that in a little bit, but I want to go country first. You are representing the United States of America, an entire country who, just because of the colors you've got on your jacket, are like, we like her more than we like that team because she's USA, USA. Any sort of thoughts about representing country as being an Olympian?
Yeah, 100%. There is like in the United States we have the West Coast teams like this team, and the East Coast teams like this team, and I like the Lakers, but you like the Cavaliers, and like that, there's that going on. But there's like something about like a whole entire country like so united to like they're rooting for you. Like
Mhm.
this is everyone's team, and we have you look, I think of the opening ceremonies and you see all the athletes, and it's like look at that diversity and the representation we have like in this group of like this is the United States. And like such a cool feeling, and a very patriotic feeling. And just the feeling of like all the communities that I've ever been a part of, I feel like I can go out and represent them. And the amount of support that we've had as a team, and just like me personally, the influx of messages and love and support, and like backing, you feel like you have an army behind you. And just feeling so proud
Yeah.
of those parts.
Yeah, and then you have this thing, Deseret News and LDS Living, a couple outlets who say, hey, here are members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and they're representing themselves in the Olympics. And then quickly you become sort of a look-to point for those within the church. Was that experience different, the same? Tell me kind of your interchange with that. Did you know it was coming? Had they contacted you?
Yeah, the whole media experience was fairly new to me. Again, here I am in the build up, like my eyes super wide, trying to focus and like play my best at my sport and locking in. And then there's all these like this media attention from you don't know where,
Mhm.
you don't know. And I've been a part of a lot of communities, and so that was something that I didn't really know who would pick up most of the stories. And I had a lot of support coming from Utah, and coming from BYU and that community, and not something that I forecasted, and um, uh, was something that made me really reflect on my life, and like the communities that I've been a part of, and how that's shaped my life, and the appreciation I can get from that. And was really a big reflection moment. And I had left the church a couple years ago,
Mhm.
and so uh, coming to terms with accepting all those different parts of me and where that fits into my life was kind of a moment that I didn't really expect going into the Olympics, where I'm trying to play rugby.
Yeah.
And
Oh yeah,
but
this
then
whole
just
this whole competitive sport thing. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. There's that too, but yeah, all these other things. Jeez.
Yeah, yeah. And so, not really expecting it, but really, forcing me to reflect, and where those communities fit in my life was actually a challenging thing that I didn't really expect to happen.
Well, and what I think is tremendous about it is that with the knowledge that it being a couple years now since you have left the church, the tremendous amount of support from within the church, BYU athletics saying, "Hey, one of ours, you guys, look, Steph." And that's all right. Hopefully that I call you Steph. I loved in the there was a thing that I wrote that or read that people were talking about nicknames, and lots of people have, these varied nicknames where you're like, where does this even come from? And they reference you as Steph, like that's your nickname. And I'm like, yeah, her name's Stephanie. Of course it's Steph. Anyway, tangential. But these are people that are rallying behind you, where sometimes, we have individuals that leave the church and it's like, that person is dead to me now. Or I don't know how we engage with them. Do we say, it becomes an awkward point, and there does not seem to have been any question from those groups, those individuals, that it's like, nope, Steph's our person.
Yeah, and I'm glad you said that. That was completely my experience. And obviously, um, not being a part of the church anymore, and being in the LGBTQ community, not something that I expected BYU to acknowledge me, I guess, and not in a bad way, but just maybe was unsure, at that level, what was appropriate and for them. And obviously it's not something that I expected to deal with, because I was like, oh, that was something that was in my past, and then this is me now. And the acceptance and claim and celebration I got from BYU was extremely positive. I met with one of the athletic directors, came and gave me a gift, and just celebrated me, and was so welcoming, and gave me a lot of like respect for that community, and how far I think that we've come, and even since I've been in the church, of love and acceptance, and in that regard. And so obviously very, very surprised of that community and how much support and love that I got from them, and just very pleasantly surprised that that's the direction it went. But a great feeling, as you can imagine.
What was it? Any sort of like because I mean, I don't know your whole story, and I certainly don't know how comfortable you are with chatting about that. So I'll kind of follow your lead as far as this goes. But I would think that in some ways, being a part of the LGBTQ community, and feeling the need to leave the church, that it didn't seem like a place that you could be and be who you authentically were. And then you're on this world stage, and it's like, oh, we claim her. Was there any sort of like dissonance of like, no, well, hey, hang on, I needed you then, and now you need me now? Was there any sort of trauma or any kind of thoughts through that? Is that some of what you had to deal with?
Yeah. Obviously a little bit of a sensitive topic for me. But I will preface by saying, like, I have so much appreciation for growing up in the church, and the values that it instilled in me, and the people that I've met along the way. And I've had a lot of positive interactions with people who support me and accept me fully, and I've had some negative experiences. But obviously, like, at first there was surprise, and then there was like, are you sure, do you know who I really am?
Right.
But my personal experience, like, I've seen kind of a spectrum of I guess I would say how people treat me or have treated me since leaving the church and being in the church. And I have had some positive experience where I know it's not every single person, and we're all unique, and we have all different beliefs and how we believe it. And so my experience is like, yeah, I've had some really, really positive experiences in the church, and support and love. And being at BYU and being LDS, like, that's a big part of me, and it will always be a big part of me, if I'm in the church or not in the church. And
Sure.
Part of who it has shaped me, and that's what I'm celebrating, is like, that's a part of me that made me who I am, and now this is what I'm doing. And who I am is who I am, and that was a part of me, and that's not something that should be hidden or not spoken about. So obviously a lot of trauma of where, at an institutional level,
Yeah.
of where I sit and where where my spirituality comes into play. But at a member level, I've had a lot of really good experience, and still have a lot of, friends that are in the church and who are very supportive of me. So a very loaded question, but
Sure.
I guess that's the answer I'd say.
Do you in a couple of forums that I have read a little bit about, people have sort of, I don't know if pedestaled you is the way to say it, but to say, here is an amazing pioneer within this aspect of the church. Do you feel the weight of that?
Yeah. I mean, I'm still figuring it out,
Yeah.
to be honest. Like, I think I just think back to when I was kind of going through understanding who I was and exploring that part of me, and really thinking like I don't have anybody that I can look at and see and be like, oh, like they're doing that. I felt so alone in that time,
Mm-hmm.
and not feeling like it was a space where I could talk about it or explore it, and nobody really understood. And in my community at that moment, I didn't have anybody that was like me.
Mm-hmm.
And knowing how important it is for there to be representation and for people to see that and hear their stories. Obviously, it's very still uncomfortable for me to talk about in a lot of ways, and not something I've spoken a lot about. But like, I wanted to kind of bridge these communities and have these conversations because of how important I like know that it is.
Mm-hmm.
And the weight of that is really big, but I think it's important to know like I don't have it figured out. Like
Yeah.
the most important thing is it's there, and these conversations are being had between two sides, and those conversations are more important than I think we really realize.
Yeah, which I have to tell you, because I initially asked you and you said no, you would not chat with me. And that's when I sicked people after you. And I was like, this conversation is too vital to have, Stephanie. We're not going to give up. So let's go at you from the left flank and let's get, because it's such, a vital conversation. Whether
Yeah.
whether people need to know that that's a position that you've been put in, your thoughts and feelings about being within that, just to get to know you as an individual. For so many still, they're like, oh, I don't know anyone in the LGBTQ community. It's like, yes, you do. Open your eyes, open your ears. Of course you do. But to be able to go, oh yeah, hey, I followed her. Wait a minute, what? Hold on, I need to know more about this. Allows them the opportunity to go, huh? I had never considered that from that perspective, and I just think it's tremendous, that whether by your choice or not, you have stepped into it and said, yeah, here we go, let's go.
Yeah, you did contact me, and I'm like, I don't think I'm the right person for you, and you said yes, you are.
Uh-huh.
And shame on me, because I mean that what I'm saying right now is like, yes, it is important to have these maybe vulnerable conversations, or hear other people's experiences, and in a space that can acknowledge both sides, or just be like, hey, this is my experience, and someone else might have a different experience, but that was mine. And the more that we understand both sides and all the sides, there's so many sides. But I just I'm speaking on what I've experienced, and I think there are people in my same position who have a totally different experience, who think totally differently, who want to be an active part of the church, or who are bitter, or are there's a spectrum of experiences that people have had that I think so important to hear all sides of that.
Yeah, for sure. I want to take another quick break. When we come back, I want to ask what the future is for Stephanie. I want to ask you a question that we ask everyone who steps into the Cultural Hall. So we'll get to that and maybe something else. We'll find out. Coming back in the third block of the Cultural Hall. BestDJinUtah.com is the website. That is where you go if you would like me to come and DJ your event. Now, will I do a family reunion where you all wear the same t-shirts? You bet I will. Will I travel to wherever you're at? Uh-huh. Am I reasonable as far as what I cost? Yes. Yes. Do I bring a good time? Yeah, all the things. Listen, Best DJ in Utah, it's my company. It's a thing I do that allows me to be able to have the time to do the Cultural Hall. So if someone's getting married, you think, man, they need a great DJ. You're throwing a party, whether it's a 50th or 60th or 40th or 20th or whatever the party is. I've done them all and would love to be able to do that. An anniversary party, certainly done those. I did a baptism in 2023. Yeah, we did a big dance party at a baptism. Spoiler, not a Mormon baptism, but it was fun nonetheless. BestDJinUtah.com is a website. I will get back to you within 24 hours with a quote. Come on now. BestDJinUtah.com. Here in the third block of the Cultural Hall, remember that you can become a Patreon saint of the Cultural Hall. You just go to patreon.com/the Cultural Hall, and for as little as $5 a month, you get to be able to see the great videos that come out of the Cultural Hall. You get to have tangential conversations that take place in our secret but not sacred Facebook group where all of the Patreon saints are hanging out. It's patreon.com/the Cultural Hall. So I have wondered this with collegiate athletes, with professional athletes, you being on the Olympic scale of this whole thing, like you do this thing that you've worked for. This is the thing. I got it. And if you and your own self-admittance had said, Well, LA is probably not going to be something I'm competing, at least not in this sport. How do you then re-identify yourself and go, all right, I'm no longer collegiate basketball Stephanie. I'm no longer, bronze medalist in the rugby sevens Stephanie. I am marketing specialist for your food cat or whatever the thing may be. Like, how do you deal with that identity?
Yeah, oh my gosh. Well, I am in the thick of it. So I am just now going into it. Luckily, I've done this before when I played basketball and I'm like, oh, I'm done with basketball, which a lot of college athletes deal with, and an identity. And I learned a lot from that, where I'm like, okay, I got to find things that I'm interested outside of rugby. I have to make myself a more balanced person and find my identity outside of my sport. And so that part really helped me as far as like going through this next career.
Mm-hmm.
And outside of rugby, I did a lot of things that I was interested in, and put a lot of effort into my role in other ways. So really building my identity was something that I was like, I got to do this while I'm playing because I'm not having another crisis.
Mm-hmm. What was it, a
But
crisis? Was it a crisis?
I got into coaching, kept me really busy, and that was kind of still part of my identity, but is scary, absolutely. And more of a within crisis, of like, who am I? And so, now that I'm in the thick of it at the moment, those same feelings of like, was that the highlight of my life? And now I got to start at the bottom of a ladder. It just is, it's a terrible feeling. And I get that question a lot, like, what's next? What's next? And I'm like, I just want a bronze medal. Like, stop asking me what's next. I'm gonna rest.
Yeah.
I'm gonna rest, and I'm tired. It's such a great experience. I'm gonna rest for a while, and what's next for me is I've been doing occupational therapy school while I was playing rugby. Our team supports a lot of aspirations outside of rugby for this very reason, and so they kind of supported me as I kind of went through school and played. And so I have about a couple months left of occupational therapy school. I'll go into pediatric occupational therapy, and so that's what's next for me on my agenda. For the next couple months, I will be resting and, finding my day to day as without athletics, and resting a lot. And my life's like this, and so it was up here, and now I'm going to take a little bit and time for myself and spend time with people that maybe I've neglected a little bit. And but as far as the next career part of my life, there's a lot of things that I'm really excited that I've kind of put on the back burner, that starting a family, and having a new career and spending time with friends, and those things that kind of took a backseat for a lot of part of my life. I'm really excited to just give that time and energy back.
Yeah, I appreciate that. You're like, give me a break. I just won a bronze medal. I don't know. I'm sure I'll give my all to something, but I don't know right now. Is that okay? Can I not know for a minute, please? Family pretty proud and rallied around you and all that stuff.
Oh my gosh, so proud, so great. They traveled, most of them traveled to Paris to support me there, which was a whirlwind, crazy with the amount of walking and heat and things that they had to deal with, while I was competing. I was just in the, getting bussed around, and they're, walking. So bless them. But they are so supportive. We had a lot of our families travel to Paris, which was so nice because, you have a stands full of 70,000 people, and, your families and your mom and your sister, and those people are there. It's really comforting feeling. And, our support system was so, so great. And, so seeing the work that I just put in, for my whole life and the things that I've sacrificed is really great for them to just acknowledge kind of they've seen everything. So.
Have you ever been just gnarly hurt? I don't know why I want to know the answer to this question, but like whenever I see pictures from rugby, I just see like fingers that, all of them should be pointed upwards and one's going downwards or the other way, or like faces and chipped teeth and just gnarly. Tell me about the time you just worked over.
Well, first minute of the first game, I broke my finger of the Olympic game. So I got this guy going on. I got a surgery tomorrow. Did that, dislocated my other finger the month before. But no, I had a very bad leg injury. I broke my leg in like 3 places at a trimalleolar fracture. So basically broke all sides of my leg. That was pretty gnarly. There was like a less than 15% chance I'd return to sport. And that was like a 2-year full recovery. I played then, obviously, but that was something that really snapped. Like I broke my rib before. those are the major ones I'd say. But yeah, it's tough, and hence why at 32, like, I'm good. I'm tapped out.
Yeah.
My body's like, no, you're good.
Would you like to continue to walk? Then we probably should maybe think about
Yeah.
doing something else. A nice game of chess, something maybe on the intellectual side. So, California is home?
Yeah, San Diego, California. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I've coached here, and the national team's here, and I've kind of built a community and friends and family out here. So
Is it a thing where you'll still always kind of play rugby, even, like your pickup games and stuff like that? Or is it best for you to just go, my last game was the bronze medal game. Thank you. I'll be doing something different.
well, a couple of my teammates are like, you can play 15s. The World Cup's next year. Like, a couple of us are doing it. And
Uh-huh.
I'm not running another step in my life. I mean, my body is tapped out, and there's something called touch rugby, which is like the equivalent of pickup basketball, where it's not tackling, you just touch, it's a different game, but people go play that at the park. But, I mean, maybe ask me in a couple of months, but I'm gonna swim a little bit, and that's about it. Like, I really, can say I fully used my body to the fullest potential, though.
Yeah. But one of the things that just resounds within your story, both, with the Olympics and I think within your faith as well, is just this idea of grit. And it's like, here we go. Let's go. I'm doing this. Whatever this is, let's go. And I'll figure it out and I'll be mindful of it. I've appreciated a lot of the things that you've said where you're like, I don't know, but I know that I'm not going to give up and I am continuing to figure it out. Even when odds, 15% that you'd never sport again are against you, you are an example to a lot of people, whether you want to admit it or not.
Yeah, I mean, thanks. I appreciate it. I think that's something that I've picked up in my life that has given me a lot of success. And obviously, like, even the church has, leaving the church and kind of turning away from the church and distancing myself from the people and the place and the conversations, and just really, this attitude of like, you just keep going, and you might not know what that looks like, or you might not know where spirituality rest within your life, or might not know what this relationship is going to be with this person. And it's okay to keep going and be uncomfortable, and just approaching it with kindness and love and grit, and being okay with, like, you're not going to know everything and you're going to be uncomfortable, but like, you can keep going and you can do it. I think that's served me pretty well in my life, and something that I think we can all relate to.
Yeah. Maybe game shows. That would be fun. You don't have to do much physical stuff for game shows. You could, Wheel of Fortune and some of these other ones. Game shows. Think about that.
Yeah. Oh, great. I'll take it in consideration.
Yeah, a lot of those film in California. Come on, Price is Right. You could do that. You could do it'd be a whole different kind of tour or circuit, but you could do a lot of game shows, not nearly as physical, but maybe a way for you to go in your future. I have loved the heck out of our conversation. One question that we ask everyone who steps into the cultural hall, we ask you to interpret it however you may. So I'll ask the question, and I don't have any sort of motive or any sort of thing with it. I literally ask it of any guest that we have ever had. The question is, what is your favorite part of your faith?
My favorite part of my faith. My favorite part of my faith is that you can have it anywhere that you go. I feel connected spiritually, when I'm in nature, when I'm with certain people, when I'm in a church, when I'm not in a church. And I think my favorite part of my faith is that it comes with me wherever I go, and it's not conditional on anything.
Yeah. Individual too. I like that. That's what I hear throughout that. I think you're an amazing individual. I'm excited that we got the ability to talk. I need to give a shout out to Chris West, who was the one who I sicked on you and said, "Come on, get her, let's go." She said no to me. Second line, let's get in there, and made this conversation possible. We, Stephanie, hope that this episode has nourished and strengthened your body, that if you're not healthy enough to listen this week, that you'll be healthy enough to listen next week, and that when the time comes, you'll be able to travel home in safety. In the meantime, Chris at Alpine Lakes Travel, Rick McGee, Debbie Wanless, Chocolate Cake Bites Podcast, and the Tiger, with a U, will be saving a seat for you on the back row of the Cultural Hall.
Save me a seat, it's sure to be neat on the back row. We read